A pass the aggravation, like a motivation. And the fangs of
Hello and welcome to the podcast. We are here live at Willing Arts Fest with my special co-host, my homie, Ron Scott Jr.
Hey, welcome everybody.
And sitting in with us, our first two guests are Logan Schmidt.
How's it going?
Good. He's an artist from, you're welcome, from the area, but he's living in Columbus now.
Yep. Sure.
And he's going to talk a little bit about the amazing stuff that he's doing, art album covers and posters and things like that for bands. And sitting in is the guy that introduced me to Logan and longtime friend Kyle Cunningham.
Howdy.
He's down on his lunch break, and he said he'd come in and sit in for a minute with us. So this is going to be an experimental podcast. We're going to have a bunch of different guests come in, and between guests, me and Ron are going to BS a little bit. And we're just excited to be here. It's a warm, sunny day at Willing Arts Fest. So, Logan, how's it going, man?
It's great.
I haven't seen you since this winter.
Yeah. I think was that at Ed's house?
It was.
Right. Yeah. The Thanksgiving, maybe.
Yeah.
After Thanksgiving soiree.
I agree. Yes. So.
It's been a minute.
Yeah. I've been following your work on Instagram and Facebook, and you've done some pretty interesting. You do posters, and just explain a little bit about like what you've been into.
So basically, I'm a screen printer and an illustrator. So doing posters for bands, it all kind of goes hand in hand. Like if you remember, like some of the Grateful Dead posters from back in the day, and it's kind of the same process. So a band or a manager or a booker will hire you, or like a venue will hire you to make a poster displaying the band's name and the date of the show. These days, it's more of a merchandise item for the band, more than anything, rather than like actually being advertisement. You make a certain amount of posters, they're screen printed, they're limited edition, and then the band sells them at the show.
That's awesome.
So,
and you've done some pretty high-profile bands.
I think Old Crow Medicine Show is probably the biggest that I've done a poster for, but I've done lots of smaller bands, mid-level bands. Melvin's is a good one. That was a fun project.
Incredible.
So,
and the theme of your artwork's always really interesting. A lot of natural imagery, animals and whatnot.
Oh yeah. So like growing up in West Virginia and in Wheeling, you kind of grow up in the woods basically. So you're kind of surrounded by that kind of imagery and that kind of feeling all the time.
And you take a little bit of your hometown attitude with you.
Yep.
I know I spoke to you and your wife Rachel about coming on the podcast maybe while you guys are in town this month, because you guys basically live in a van.
Yep, that's basically it. Yeah.
Isn't that incredible?
Yeah.
I was not ready for that.
Right.
I know that you have like a studio space in Columbus, right?
Right, yeah. So we, after I graduated from school last year, we were kind of planning it for about a year before then, so it was good timing, and we kind of wanted to be free from having a job, and me being able to just make artwork and make that transition a little bit easier. It's not super easy to make art for a living.
Sure.
So we kind of wanted to cut as much of our overhead as we could, so that we could kind of just do what we wanted, and I could take on more jobs that might not pay as well, but they're really fun and they would be better for my portfolio.
Sure.
So it kind of allowed us that freedom to do that. So
That's fantastic.
Yeah, I think that's
really fun.
I think that's a really smart move, especially from a young person, because I'm old. I'm 50. To realize that you don't want to be financially strapped with a mortgage and a car payment and all these things that would make you have to take a job or do the kind of art that maybe would pay the bills, but not necessarily as an artist or for your career be the best for you.
Right. Yeah, that was kind of the idea, and it's just we realized too we weren't home that often. And when we were home, we would probably just watch TV and go to sleep. So we didn't really think we needed it, because we were living in like a house before then, and we rented from my aunt, and it was a lot of space, and we were like, we don't need all this.
Yeah.
Yeah, kind of worked in that way too.
So now you have the freedom of financial, but also you can get in the van and just take off.
Yeah, so it helps. Not for this show specifically, because we have family here. We just stay with them. But when we're doing shows elsewhere where we don't really know anybody, we don't need to pay for a hotel to stay that night. We can just sleep in the van somewhere and then wake up and roll out and do the show. So it saves a lot of money that way too, and makes it easier for us.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So, always been into art?
Yeah, pretty much. When I was like a little kid, I would draw little comics like Peanuts or like Calvin and Hobbes kind of style things like that. And then as I grew, I kind of moved into doing more music-related things and doing stuff for Kyle's bands for a while.
Yeah.
So,
when did you get into the screen printing and that stuff?
okay, so when I went to school, when I first started school, a lot of the artists and the illustrators that I really liked, they all did gig posters and like Mondo posters, like alternative movie posters, and all their work was screen printed generally. So I was like, well, I like all this illustration stuff, I like gig posters and all these artists, so I should probably learn how to screen print so I can kind of do what they do.
Right.
So yeah, so I learned in school how to screen print.
Where'd you go to school?
I went to Columbus College of Art and Design.
Oh, okay.
So
is that why you guys are kind of still based up around there? You know people in Columbus?
Yeah, we kind of got to be in a really good network of people, and we have, just friends from school, and I think we found probably some of the best people in Columbus to kind of surround ourselves with, and it's a good place to be. And the studio we're at is actually like right next to the school.
Oh, that's awesome.
We're kind of back in that neighborhood, so.
I think it's important, especially as an artist, but everybody to be part of a community.
Yeah, it's very nice, and like the studio we have is like a group studio. So it's called Block Fort, and it has 16 studios. I believe there's 22 artists in there.
Oh wow!
And they all kind of like me and Rachel are there just all the time. We're just working or like in and out and doing whatever. So. And sometimes we just hang out. Like on Sundays, we just play games, like play board games. But
because your friends are there, right?
Yeah. So it's kind of like being an artist can be kind of lonely if you don't like know a lot of people or have that community. So it's nice that we kind of fell in with that group of people, and we can kind of just chit chat all day and ask people what they think of our work. Like we can do critiques, things like that. So and there's events there all the time. There's a gallery in the front and the back. So we have 2 galleries that have openings every month.
Oh wow!
So we have like events there all the time, and people in Columbus or from elsewhere bring their events to our gallery.
Nice.
So we kind of like rent it out in that way too. So there's always something going on there.
This is great. You know what I like the most about this is I feel like a lot more young artists, like high school age and coming up, should hear your story, because right now what I've noticed is like young artists especially, they get from like their family and their parents and all that, they get the whole, okay, try it, take one good run, doesn't work, there's a job at the mill,
right,
and you come up back and do normal work.
Right.
And the decisions you guys are making, it's like in the name of the art and the passion and creating.
Yeah.
And it's like all doable stuff. Like that's fantastic. If people knew that the decisions and stuff that you're making, I think they'll become more of the norm. And those would be the decisions that young folks coming out of high school and stuff could start making, which you do wonders for an art community wherever those people land.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And I mean,
fantastic.
We kind of don't think of we don't really think of a plan B, because it's just like I don't want to do anything else. Like, just wouldn't be rewarding.
And it doesn't happen overnight.
No, no, absolutely.
And I think what excites me about younger people is that it's not about making a lot of money, and you realize, like, I wish I would have realized at a young age that you don't have to make a lot of money. It's better to be doing something that you really love and live a more minimal lifestyle to be able to pursue your art and to be able to put in the several years that you need to, and maybe even if you never make, I think you're talented, so I think your success will only grow, but even if it doesn't, you've kind of figured out a way to make a living doing your art, and what's better than that?
Right.
Well, and it's so hard for our generation to like make decent money too to begin with. I mean, before I made art, I worked at Panera Bread.
Right.
So it's like, I don't know. It was like I could either not make a lot of money and also be miserable, or I could not make a lot of money and be happy and have this freedom, and then know that all the work I'm doing is going somewhere and it's going towards what I want to do as my life goals. So
that's such a good point.
I just left from doing this thing with the community foundations of the Ohio Valley, and we talked about a principle. Like, I'm into stuff like you have things change with like paradigm shifts, the big shifts in thought.
Right.
And I said one of the ones I think in the art community that needs to shift is the idea of a starving artist as been replacing it with what I'm calling a smiling artist.
Yeah.
Because I don't like the idea of you got to starve and be miserable and living in a trash can in order to make it. But you make these kind of choices that fall perfectly with a smiling artist.
Right. Well,
you don't got
it's a great concept.
Tons of money, but
I like that.
you're going to be good. Like you're good, and that's what counts.
I think mindset. Plus, you guys, like you said, you prepared for a year to kind of do the van thing.
Yeah, we did a lot of research.
So I think preparation to live a frugal. So you're not poor. You're just frugal. And I mean, I don't make a lot of money myself, but I live very comfortably just because I've learned how to live well within my means, and
Absolutely.
I'm so happy that I'm not crushed by debt, and and I can have time to even spend money to put out a podcast.
Yeah, and you can still create. That's what I love.
Right.
Yeah.
You can continue to create no matter what you're doing. It's films, podcasts, whatever it is.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I love that.
And I like that the filmmaking, which me and Ron do together, and the podcast, there's no money involved, so I don't have to worry about, is it going to sell, is it going to be
Right.
marketable. We just do it,
Yeah.
and luckily people have liked the movies that we've done, and they've taken to the podcast, and but I don't have to worry about ratings as far as to make a living.
Right.
Something I want to go back to, I was just listening to a podcast earlier in the week, and it was a writer and a photographer that once he started making a decent amount of money, he had the opportunity to move to the suburbs, but he chose to instead move into the apartment that his wife had in New York City in a Cuban neighborhood. There was a lower class neighborhood, but he liked the idea of being in a big apartment building where everybody really had to pitch in and look out for each other. And there's something about being in a community that he said that was more valuable than living in a place where he had his own yard, where you're isolated from people. And he really talked about how no matter how much money he had, he would still want to live in that community. And I'd never heard anybody talk about that before, but it made total sense. So I'm kind of jelly about your situation being
I love it,
and I wonder what the viability of doing something like that here in Willing would be.
I mean, honestly, I don't think people expected as much here, so it'd probably be pretty good or pretty easy to get away with.
Yeah.
It was interesting actually. Like a lot of times, we'll sleep in parking lots.
Yeah.
Just 'cause it's like, they might not know we're there, but
Right.
it's kind of a gray area. But when we went out west recently, we took a road trip, and in California, like everybody was expecting that.
Yeah.
They're like, there were signs everywhere. It's like, hey, you can't live in your vehicle here. You
Oh.
have to go somewhere else. And it's like, oh, interesting. Like, we saw so many people living in their vans there too,
Wow.
and campers and trailers and stuff. But it was more expected there.
Sure.
So it
I
was
guess
interesting.
Everybody heads west, the adventurous people, plus the weather's nice out there, so that's probably a good place to do it.
Yeah.
As far as like a building with a bunch of artists, a collective like
Oh,
that.
like that.
Yeah. Do
Oh,
you think that would be viable?
Oh,
here?
absolutely. Yeah. I mean, and that project, Block Fort, was headed by my good friend Adam Brulette, who he also went to CCAD years ago. He graduated in 2002, so he's a bit older than I am, but we're really good friends. And he's built basically three studios in Columbus from the ground up.
Wow.
Being able to get funding, and he took out a lot of loans,
Yeah.
things like that. But like the community is always very much behind him, and he just kind of makes it happen. It's just I've learned a lot from this guy actually, but he kind of doesn't take no for an answer in a way. It's like
Right.
a lot of other people want to be like, come on, like you can't do that. Like just make an artist community and like build this stuff from the ground up. You need to go through all the proper channels. Everything needs to be right. And he's just like, no, we're just going to do it. It'll be kind of DIY, but we're going to make it look pretty. It's
Yeah.
going to look nice, and I'm going to get all the people that I know that will make this a good project, and we're just going to work together and make it happen. So I mean, really, like, that building was just a big empty. It used to be a Napa Auto Parts.
Oh,
and
wow.
It's just a big empty warehouse, and they brought in drywall and built a bunch of studios in there, and it's probably the biggest project that he's taken on to date, but it's still pretty DIY, and it's perfectly reasonable. Like, if there was a building, and he rents that space too. He doesn't own the building. So,
Oh, wow.
It helps having people that own the buildings that are invested in what you're trying to do.
Right. That
So, and I
support
think
you.
there are people around here that,
Yeah, and we have a lot of. I'm looking right now. We have a lot of buildings that are either not used or underused. Even the
Absolutely.
Willing
Oh,
Pittsburgh,
yeah.
the steel building isn't there a lot of open space in there?
Oh,
Still?
yeah. The old King Jeweler building
Yeah.
just sits there. I mean, there's tons. If somebody had the right mindset, it could happen here.
Yeah.
for
I
sure.
would. I'd like to maybe get in touch with him and just maybe see about the viability, because I've been wanting to just find a space where I could have a podcast studio,
Right.
not just for me, but where the equipment was set up and you bring in your SD card and you schedule a time and you plug it in and you record your
Just go.
podcast,
Yeah.
and everything's already set up for you so that more people can do this, because I shouldn't be the only one in the valley here that's doing a podcast.
A lot of people I talk to, they always say, oh, I have an idea for a podcast, or oh, we should make a podcast out of this, and you're just sitting around talking. So it seems like everyone really likes the idea of doing one,
Yeah.
but to actually buy the equipment like you've done and set it up, and that's a big step that a lot of people probably don't take.
Yeah,
right?
and maybe they just want to do one every now and then. And I mean, I do sometimes several a week, but for somebody that maybe has an idea for one and they just want to see how it goes, or something's itching their brain and they just want to come on and the mic by themselves and rant, whatever it is, just to make it available to them. And so, and the idea that I thought was a coffee shop where it also had a podcast studio attached to it.
Oh, that'd be awesome.
To me, it's mostly about building community, and that's why I like the idea of that. And if you had artist lofts upstairs and a coffee shop downstairs and a gallery space, you would build the community within the artists that are involved. But I also think that you would have a place for fans of the art and for people that are maybe not directly involved to just build a bigger and bigger community of people that are interested in the arts. And, so that's kind of what I've been really passionate about lately.
Yeah, and it's great too because all those people that might not have they don't work in the same medium, they don't necessarily do the same thing, it's like a crossroads and like a gathering place for all these people that have these ideas, and then they network and make new projects. They're like, oh, what if we did a podcast and then like I did a cover for each one. I'm a photographer, and I'll take an awesome picture of like different areas in Wheeling, or like pictures of whoever you're interviewing.
Right.
And we can make covers for each episode. Like you can collaborate in that way. It's just
and then somebody says, wow, who does your photography? And you're like, oh, this is my friend Bob. He's a photographer. And like, oh, do you think I could hire him? For sure you can.
Right, and it all kind of snowballs and everything just grows.
Yeah, I love that idea of everybody pulling up each other up the ladder.
Yeah.
That one of the things we kind of talk about on here a lot is that there's not a lot of haters. Whenever we do well with a film, they're very happy for us. And when a band does well, we're happy for them. And I think the world is kind of shifting in that direction, especially with artists. But definitely around here, and it sounds like where you're at, that's the vibe for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. And so many of the things that I've been involved with and seen in Columbus, I've thought myself, man, this stuff could happen so easily in Wheeling.
Yeah.
So I don't know, it'd be fun to even help out with anything like that, like even just consulting or like.
We would love that.
Yeah. I'd love to be involved. Yeah. So,
I think we're talking about now. I hope anybody that's listening to this, hit me up if you like that idea. And I think it definitely needs one passionate person to take the lead.
Right.
I don't know if I'm that person.
Right. Well, it does take one passionate person, but it takes all the people that think it's a great idea and
to back them up.
To back them up. Yeah. There can be someone like kind of leading it, but it won't happen if everybody else isn't invested in it in some way.
I could see Kyle Cunningham being that guy.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
I like art.
Get some loans, more loans.
Yeah, I would like to see Kyle be the one going into debt instead of me, because he's young. He has more time to pay it off.
He can handle it.
Yeah.
I thought you were the frugal one. You don't have any debt.
That's the part of being frugal is to spend other people's money.
Okay.
I would be frugal if I bought a building.
Right.
Although the professional building has a lot of potential in itself, and maybe Glenn, if you're out there listening to this, maybe we'll have to talk. There's some really cool spaces there, and of course he's the mayor, and he's also very supportive of the arts and people bettering themselves. And now, what do one of those spaces run for a rental?
The one I'm at, it's $1.10 per square foot. So we just have I don't do my screen printing there. I actually help a friend out at a shop in Columbus. So I do my screen printing there. So I just need a small space for my illustration work. So we have only 100 square foot, so a 10 by 10 foot space. So we only pay $110 a month for a studio space.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
And here's the thing. So most of the loans and the kind of grants and stuff that my friend got to start this space was mostly to just get it up to code and get everything really good just for an artist space. But it can be as DIY as you need, because the rent for the place is covered by all the people that pay rent there.
Oh, wow.
So he's not like paying extra to cover the rent. It's all divided up. So, and that's how he's kind of done it with all the other places he's run. It's all paid for by the people that are there. So if you can get people together to make the space and even get like a few grants for that, it wouldn't be that difficult to just make it how you want or as DIY as you need it to be. And then the rent for the actual space is already covered by, you just get enough people to get a deposit down for that first month's rent, and that's like, this is how much it is going to be.
So that's why you do by the square foot. You take the total square foot and you figure out how much per square foot, and then you rent it out accordingly.
Right, yeah.
That's a really simple and great way to do it.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like, you think it's a very complicated process, but when you break it down, and I've been fortunate enough to be kind of on the sidelines watching all this happen and being involved with it, that it's incredibly simple when you kind of break it down.
I love that. So now we know somebody that's walked that path before. So
right.
if somebody or me
right, yeah.
would decide to do that, we have someone that can help you figure out all that stuff that they probably took some doing to kind of to get to that point. And of course, we have the willing young preservationist, and so we have people that are very skilled at refurbishing buildings and knowing how to get grants. And so if you take a building and maybe it's historical, you can get it fixed up with historical money, and then the artist space, and there's all kinds of synergy.
Right, exactly.
That's it. I love words like that.
Yeah, that's a good word.
And I definitely think that that could really boost the artist community in Willing, and I think that people talk about revitalizing the city all the time, and the health plan and different things can definitely help in a big way. But I think a thriving artist community kind of makes a city hip, and helps attract people when people are thinking about moving a business to a city. They look for culture, and
keeps younger people too.
Yeah.
Like there's things for them to get into.
I think that's a very good point, because for any city to have a real good future, you have to keep the young people around and loving the city and having an appreciation for it, which I don't know how it was when you left.
It's a lot better now.
Yeah.
As far as in that regards. Yeah.
People definitely have love for where they live, and they don't bemoan, "Oh, I'm living in Willing." They're like, "I love living here," and I think that's incredible.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think we were all kind of on the cusp of that when we left to go to school. So it's nice to see like so much going on here.
Yeah.
But it's interesting. Yeah, you see a lot of cities that are much smaller than Wheeling that have a young hip crowd, and there's like artisans and artists that all live there, and you wonder like, what is it that makes that happen? So it's interesting.
Yeah, I think it's one of those things that's really hard to put your finger on, the exact thing that
kind of boosts that and brings it to life. Yeah,
I think just having a good spirit and like kind of pushing towards that goal is what it is. If you act with, it's kind of cheesy to say maybe, but if you act from a good place in your heart, then good things happen. And sometimes you don't know the exact path, but you know that if you're going in that direction, you'll get there eventually.
Yeah, and also things like those artist studios that would allow people to take. I think a lot of it is too like the risk. Like, sometimes it's kind of iffy to think like, would this fly here? Would this actually be beneficial for the community and for me? And would I be able to make a living doing this, or even just a side business doing this? And with those like studios and stuff, people can try those things out. You can have like pop-ups and more things like this, like on a regular basis, even in that building, and kind of gauge it and kind of grow things from there.
I definitely think if it's golf carts going by, if you can have like an incubator for people that they just need that little something to help them make that next step.
I'd imagine like even outside of art, like small professional startups or just individual professionals that need a small office space could benefit from some sort of like multi-use like co-op or something like that. So it doesn't have to be reserved just for the arts, and that would definitely promote business and whatnot.
I agree, because like you have your home inspection business, and if you had an office space where you could co-op those different things,
just a small place to set up a desk is a huge world difference than trying to do it at home. Just trying to operate a business from your home, you think differently, I think, when you actually have an office to go to, even if you don't necessarily need it. And it's just so expensive otherwise unless you had a place like that.
And if it's a supportive community, then you almost want to be there and spend time there and makes work fun. It sounds like you really, as much as you work hard at your art, that you doesn't sound like you're working like.
I mean, a lot of it is pretty easy work. I mean, I consider posting to Instagram part of my job. So, I mean, but that's great. It's just kind of fun stuff. And for the amount of time we are at the studio, we're not working the whole time we're there. We're just
it's just your life,
right? It's just part of life.
I'm telling you, man.
So
those are the decisions That stuff just gets me all pumped up.
Yeah.
When I imagine people, like with my new job, I love my job a whole lot, and I imagine that there's so many times through the day that I have to stop and go, I'm at work right now.
Right.
Like,
yeah.
I'm at work right now.
Yeah.
Like, you'll make something incredible and go to post it on the Instagram, and you're like, I'm at work right now.
Right, yeah. Even things like this. Yeah, I mean, the hardest part of doing these shows is just setting up the tent. And then,
Right.
Yeah.
all right, I get to just hang out and, drink some local beer, and
Yeah.
it's great.
And you're working.
Yeah, I'm working, yeah.
Because I'm at work right now.
Yeah, right.
Man, I am really proud to know you, and
Hey,
I think
you
it's
guys
just
too. Absolutely.
great what you're doing. And
Please keep it up.
we've only met a couple times, but we hit it off immediately.
yeah.
We talked about so much, but I feel like we have so much more to cover. And I hope before you and Rachel leave, when are you going back?
End of the month, so we'll be around for a little bit.
Okay,
so.
before you guys leave, I hope we can get together and talk more about van living and
Yeah.
about what you guys are doing up there. And thank you so much for coming along and let you get back to the Arts Fest. And,
Hey, thanks for having me.
I've really enjoyed getting to know you more over this last half hour of talking. And Kyle, are you going to stick around for a few more minutes?
I'm on my lunch break. Let me see.
Just stay and get paid for being on the podcast.
Right, that's what I'm thinking about.
We can talk about work.
Because I am at work right now.
Yeah.
Well, good luck, brother.
All right, hey, thank
and,
you.
I
Thanks for
hope
having
you
me.
sell a lot today. And
Great to meet you.
You
Yeah.
too, man. You keep doing what you're doing.
yeah,
It's an inspiration.
yeah.
Appreciate it. Thanks for having me. Kyle.
Later, sir. I'll swing by the
Yeah,
booth.
we'll hang out. It'll be great.
All right.
See you guys. Thank you.
So, Kyle, what have you been up to these days?
Oh, nothing.
Concrete Teepee has kind of gone through a nice renaissance. You guys have been
Yeah.
playing a lot more shows and
We're-
sounding good.
We're doing an album. We're probably 75% of the way through, I think.
See, I haven't seen you guys and talk that much lately. That's
We've been
really
hunkered
exciting.
down and doing that, and we're just writing all new material now because we've been playing the same set for a year or so now.
Yeah.
So we've just been hanging out writing stuff, trying to restart the machine.
I love the name.
Yeah.
That's great. Concrete.
Yes. Yeah, I think it's that's sometimes it's good to stop and just say, let's retool and
Right.
And I mean, you guys are all so talented and
Thanks to the Bridge and Tunnel people, we've been playing a lot more shows. Like they've really been good at just making more shows around town, and so that we started playing. Then we realized we're playing the same stuff over and over again.
Yeah.
So we need to stop and
it makes you a little bit more aware that we need some new material. Hey, we've got a couple more guests here coming in. Hannah and her sister.
Actually, this isn't my sister.
Oh, this isn't her
but-
sister.
we'll trade off here. I
Oh,
gotta
Kyle,
get
you
to
got to
work.
take off. Hey, buddy, thanks for stopping by, my
for
friend.
talking. See you,
All
sir.
right, man. Enjoy your day at work.
I kicked him out. Sorry. Oh, no, I'm good.
Oh, come on. Yeah,
I'll
have
sit
a
next to you.
have a
Yeah,
seat.
either way, the mic's
Hi,
picking
James.
you up.
Hi, Hannah. My good friend Hannah. We don't get to see each other very often. Who's
We're
with
shaking
you?
hands.
Victoria.
Victoria. What's your last name?
Valcar.
Balcar. Nice to meet you. So I this is Ron Scott Jr.
Hello.
Hello, Ron Scott Jr.
How are you?
Hello.
And how are you?
Actor, screenwriter, playwright, and all-around good guy. So I ran into Hannah before the podcast, and she was saying that they are starting a arts magazine
We
in
are.
Wheeling.
Are you
And I said,
serious?
stop by and talk about your shit.
Yeah, we are. We are working on startup for what we're calling Black Bear Magazine. It's going to be local. We're trying to keep it in the Ohio Valley, but we also were spreading out just for content's sake, really.
Sure.
So we're all of West Virginia. We're kind of pushing out toward Pittsburgh kind of stuff. But we want to keep it as local as possible. That's kind of the point of it. Is
Yeah, right.
somewhere to showcase local visual art. We're also doing essays, short stories, poetry, that kind of
Nice.
stuff. So we just closed our first submission deadline. So we've got our content now. We're trying to put a sample together to kind of get out in July. It's not as big as we'd like it to be in the future, but it's mostly just a sample to get out there and show people what we're trying to do.
I love it.
We're looking for advertising. We'd love to sell some advertising space to kind of help keep it going. But we're just working on getting a sample together right now.
What's it going to be called?
Black Bear Magazine.
Nice. Where'd the name
Yes.
come from?
My sister chose it, and her boyfriend's sister. I had to think about that one for a second, just because of the attachment to black bears in West Virginia.
Right.
So that's kind of where it came from. We've got a Facebook. We've got Black Bear Magazine on Facebook.
Nice.
And blackbearmagazine@gmail.com for submissions. We're going to do featured photography spreads and featured short stories. So we're kind of offering a little bit more space for those.
That's awesome.
I'm really excited about it.
The last deadline has already passed.
Right.
So the next thing you will be submitting is for the next issue?
Yes. We want to do quarterly at first, so we have a summer issue together. So we're looking toward a fall issue. They don't have to be themed entries.
And I got some folks I would love to shoot your way. Actually, my father.
Yeah.
He writes. He won a Silver Poets Award back in the day. He has a shoebox full of stuff that he just kind of sits with.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
Mr. Scott's writing is interesting because how old's your father now?
68.
68, and he's a unique individual in that he's lived this really interesting life, and now he's taken time to reflect back on what it all means and kind of share the knowledge of a lifetime with the next generation through his writing, and it's some deep stuff. And
I would love to hear it or see it.
Yeah,
absolutely.
So where did you guys get the idea for doing a magazine? How did that all come about?
All the props have to go to Monica.
Okay.
My sister, Monica Mull Photography. It's my little plug. She's the creative genius here. It was all her idea. She started the Wheeling, what is she calling it? The Wheeling Young Artists of Wheeling.
Yes.
That's her little group, Young Artists of Wheeling group.
Yeah.
Just trying to get somewhere to come together. Somewhere where you can all be together as a group, share ideas, kind of just that's mainly
build a
it.
community.
Absolutely. All for community. And someone suggested that she start doing like a kind of like a quarterly post on that, just with some featured and artist stuff like that, and we just kind of let the idea spread a little bit into a magazine.
I think that's great.
Yeah, I got put in a little later on the technical side. I'm not the creative genius, but I'm going to put it together.
But the technical side is very important. I worked at a magazine for 10 years. And so you need the technical people so that the artists don't get caught up in trying to figure out the technical part.
Yep.
I think everybody doing their part is what makes for a successful project like that. I wish you're going to have to go back and listen to the first part of this podcast with Logan. You know Logan, right?
Yeah, Logan Schmidt.
So he was talking about the collective, the building that his studio is in, and how the community that's developed around that, and so that's kind of been the theme so far of the podcast is building community, and I think your magazine goes a big way toward that. And I might have to get you roped in on this idea of an artist studio space.
We'd love to.
So when will the magazine be available, do you think?
We are shooting for to have some copies by July.
Okay.
We're working with a printer to do a test run just because we don't know, we haven't advertised selling the magazine yet. We're holding off to kind of get a sample to get the advertising space. We're definitely getting a copy for all the people who have submitted. I think we've got we've got at least 3 photography spreads, 4 essays, 6 or 7 poems.
Wow.
So we've got a decent base, but we're shooting for July.
Okay.
And then we're shooting for hopefully an October release for the fall quarter.
Nice. So that's printing a magazine is not cheap, right?
No, it's not.
Are you guys? How are you getting your funding? Are you self-funding?
Currently, we are self-funding.
Wow, God bless you. That's that's tough.
It's been interesting. So that's why we're trying to just get a small sample size to work on the advertising. It's easier to advertise when you can hand someone something tangible that they can look at.
Yeah, absolutely, and get an idea of exactly what they're dealing with, because so many times people will talk about things that never happen. So if you have an actual magazine there, it shows that you know what you're doing and that you're following through. And not that people shouldn't trust Hannah, because she's as legit as they come, but I think that have that thing that they can hold in their hand.
An honest face.
Well, thank you. Absolutely. Yep, that's our plan.
I just think that there's so many people that I'm finding out that are doing great things like that around here. The community just keeps getting bigger and stronger. And I'm really one of the big things about this podcast is to build community, get to know the neighbors, and just get to know what people are doing.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because I didn't know until today about the magazine, but hopefully the 12 people that listen to the podcast.
Hey, now I heard 120 downloads one day, 98 on Friday. I just want to point that out.
We're doing very well. I'm very pleased that if you listen to this part of the podcast or you've listened to any of them, thank you very much for all the support. And I'm humbled and really appreciate it. And But it's because guests like you that are doing exciting things come on and talk about it.
I was just going to say the opposite.
She did the pshaw. She's like, oh, get out of here.
The pshaw hand. I was just going to say the opposite. I was going to say you're a pretty awesome guy, and I'm excited for this.
I think we're all awesome.
You guys are awesome.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much.
And I'm just so excited that you guys are doing this magazine. I can't wait to see the first issue.
Oh, it's going to be cool. I will bring you one. I will bring you a special first issue.
The podcast issue.
The podcast issue. Perfect.
Well, you have to come on and do a whole podcast about
Sure.
the magazine, and then we'll break into other things.
Yeah.
It's funny because I know you kind of like I know Logan. We've
Yeah.
met a couple times, but we've never really hung out
Right.
a lot. We had one night at Pickles when we met in person.
The night that I held Brandon Fair's my phone for Brandon Fair's lyrics, that was good. 'Cause
That's
he
right.
didn't know the lyrics to Creep. Who doesn't know the lyrics to Creep?
Well, he's a special individual.
Anyway.
Yeah.
Anyway.
I love Brandon Von Fair. I wish he was still back in town, but he's
Me
in New York.
too. I know.
But it'll be a great chance for us
Yeah.
to really get to know each other better. And I'm just,
Let's do it.
Again, it's, Ron's been doing so many great things in the community, and he's got a rap show coming up at the Third Fridays.
Oh, yeah.
Nice. At the Artworks?
Mm-hmm. And I'll be embarking on my rap career.
Yes.
Me and Ryan Sears, he's been doing a little rap thing in private called Rhineco, and he asked me last night if I would be his hype man. So I'm going to be
gonna be amazing.
I'm going to be MC Tracksuit. All of y'all. And I guess all of his songs are about people's mamas.
Oh, okay.
So
That could be a touchy subject.
Maybe.
I'm sure it's all good. How great everybody's mom is what
Oh,
I'm.
okay.
I wouldn't
Oh,
sign
okay.
on if it wasn't.
Okay.
It's not a diss your mom
Okay,
thing,
I
I don't
got you.
think.
Just make sure you don't, in your emceeing, make sure you're not condoning everything. Leave that, that ambiguity there.
Oh, yes.
Plausible deniability, James.
I don't condone anything bad or evil. Yeah.
Great. A bunch of, I don't know, maybe.
He says, your mom. I'm like, well, maybe. It's never been confirmed.
Possibly.
Maybe that's actually Tracksuit's thing will just be, well, this has not been proven. This is just keep in mind that's Rhineco's opinion only. I met her once. She's a lovely lady. She made me cookies. I'll present the other side. I love people's moms.
Okay. I'll write you a legal disclaimer.
That's right.
Just at the end, the super fast where you can't even tell what they're trying to say. They're talking so fast. Legal disclaimer at the end.
Like at the end of a pharmaceutical
Yeah,
ad.
there you go.
Oh my goodness, I'm hearing Josh Taylor on stage. He's playing one of my favorite songs. Speaking of people that are doing incredible things, they had a show at Towngate last week, and as good a band as you'll see anywhere. And he lives right here in the Ohio Valley. And your sister's got her photography down there, and it's incredible. That's the great thing about Arts Fest is you see all these people that live right here that are doing incredible work.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
It's a good time to be here.
I walked down the booths last night, and I think at least half of the people here, I know them from somewhere, but
Yeah.
I had no idea. They were into painting, they were into pottery. I had absolutely
Yeah.
no idea. I walked out and I said hi to everybody, and it took me 10 minutes to get to my sister's booth because it's at the end of the line.
Yeah.
It was awesome just to see that so many people that I know are into creating something. It's really cool.
It is.
I'm excited.
They're very talented, and we always talk about this. What a supportive community that we live in. From the filmmaking to the podcast to the artists, and then I think it's great that people like you are willing to take the time and spend your own money to build a magazine that's really about promoting other people.
Yeah, it's gonna be awesome.
It's not really for the glory of the magazine
not.
maker. But
Yeah.
so that's a very giving thing that you're doing.
Aw, well, thank you.
Oh.
I owe it all to Williamsley. They taught me everything I know.
Well, I think that's great that you take your professional skill and you take it outside of work and use it for the
That's the
greater
point.
good of the community. I think people seeing you do that will inspire people to do something not for money, but because they just want to see good things happen.
I hope so, and I hope that it's even, like I mentioned before, I'm not the creative genius in my family. I am not artistic in any way. I'm the organization behind the rest of it, so I kind of hope that even with this magazine, as it grows, hopefully, fingers crossed, double fingers crossed, as it grows and grows, it also becomes an outlet for the people who are maybe not as creative to help in the background doing things like I'm doing. Because you hand me a pencil and I can make a stick figure, that's about it.
Right.
But I can format the magazine. I can organize it.
And
I can lay it out.
So important.
Yes, they're just as important as those folks. Without them, it's just a bunch of creative people.
Right.
She looked at. We were trying like InDesign. We were trying Word. We were just doing a bunch of different programs, and this is how I got roped into it. She asked me what to use, and I kind of spelled it out for her. You know, the strengths and the weaknesses of each program. And I swear to God, I could hear her crying over the phone. She was just like, I don't know what to do. And I was like, it's cool. I'll take care of it.
And then once you got in, you got hooked.
Exactly. Right. Now I'm in. So.
And as much as it's helping other people, you're probably finding, I would guess, that it's enriched your life to have this thing to be passionate about.
Absolutely.
And that's, I think everybody should have something that they do outside of their job, if it's not their job.
Sure.
That they get excited about, that they
absolutely
sense of accomplishment and a challenge. And my friend Melanie, she's a painter, and she pointed out to me she's really smart, and she's helped me by jumping ahead of things, by pointing out things that should have been obvious, but that artists really do need people like yourself, that their art, and it is an art, to be the business people, to be the person that knows the computer programs, so that if you're a painter, you can concentrate on painting, and you don't have to worry about promotions or all the other business side of it. And I really do hope that anybody listening to this get the idea that what you're doing is an art. And anybody that's good at business or the organizational person with the films, for us, having the people that come through and help organize the day and keep everything in order, and we're getting more people interested in helping with food, which we like. When we did Need or Greed, Ron's family fed us every day, so that was one thing that we didn't have to worry about. We just walked over to the house and we ate, and then we went back to filming. Right, then you can focus on your art, you can focus on creating what you need to create and what you want to create. Instead of me having to stop and say, well, we're going to order pizzas or whatever, we were able to just jump right into it. And,
agreed.
Everybody pulling in the same direction. Another theme of today's podcast.
Yes, this whole community thing, man. We can't escape it.
I've always been a fan of community, and now I feel like this is the place. We're at the beginning of something. I agree. And it's growing, and we get to be a part of it. And I'm just so happy that you're my friend and excited for what you're doing. Oh, you are too. And Trevor, if you're listening to this, which I'm sure you will be, holler at both of us. We miss you.
Trev, we were just talking about you.
Yeah, you need Trevor Lindgren.
Come see me.
If you need to be called out by name, come hang out with us. And
we have like 6 seasons of Doctor Who fan talk to catch up on, man. We haven't even touched Capaldi yet.
I'll probably be out riding a motorcycle while you nerds are talking about Doctor Who. Oh, I just lost Hannah.
You better be glad this is a podcast, because they can't see my face right now.
All the love just ran out of her face. Hey,
whatever.
I support people in whatever they're passionate about.
Thank you very much. I'm going to go organize something.
I don't have to be a Doctor Who fan to appreciate that other people are.
All right.
And respect their values.
I accept that. All
right. Well, thank you again for coming
James.
on. And
it's nice to meet you.
You didn't say much, but you were here for moral support.
Yes, she's the moral support.
And I'll hit you up in short order about you guys coming on and talking for 2 hours about this and other things.
Let me know. We'll have to get Monica some Valium, maybe. We work out well because she does not.
She's shy.
People.
Yeah.
She does not do people.
We'll do it later, Gator. We'll get her one of Amanda Curry's amazing cocktails.
I don't think she's ever had alcohol.
Oh, okay. Well, then we'll just have to get her a Valium. Yeah.
Okay.
I'll put her at ease. We'll get Ron to come in again, and he's a very calming soul.
That's what I do. And counselor by trade. I'll get behind her.
Let's do it.
Be fine. You're gonna be okay.
I think if she has a little warning.
Yes.
I kind of sprung it on her today. She's a little nervous, so she has some warning. And if we're in maybe a smaller venue where there's not 1,000 people walking around, I think we could do that.
And we could even do like an in-home, because I'm portable, and where you figure out the space that she's the most comfortable at, and I'll come say hi to her before I leave, so that she'll get to know me a little better. Yeah. Realize that I'm a safe person to talk to.
I don't think she's scared. She's not really scared. She just hates. She hates people.
Yeah.
She's not very. She's not good at people.
I'm almost going to guess, from my limited experience doing it, when we get her talking about the things that she's passionate about, she'll forget about the fact that
we're people.
Yeah. If you could hear my head rattle right now, it'd be intense. It'd be like some death metal up in here with my head shaking. Yes, I agree.
That's why I think I like you. It's because you got the death metal in there.
Okay, that's what it is. Have a good day, James. I'll see you later.
Yes.
And it was nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you as well.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
We'll see you soon.
Yes.
Have fun.
Yes. We're such a lovely day here, isn't it?
Yes.
The weather's perfect.
I'm gonna get a picture of you up against with the mic.
In the river in the background. We're going to try to get Bob to come over.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah, he's coming over here in a minute. Until then, me and Ron will chit chat, podcast style.
Great pose.
Thanks again, Hannah. What a great person.
Yeah.
So while we got a
That's
couple of
what's
moments to
nuts.
ourselves,
That magazine thing, that's fantastic. It just blows my mind that there's so much stuff happening that I had no clue about. It's fantastic.
there really is so much going on here that every day I'm finding out more and more the depth of what all's going on here in the valley.
People are creating. And I love that.
And they're working towards community. And I saw Rosemary walk by earlier.
Yeah.
And she's going to come on hopefully here in a minute after Bob and talk about, she started a group. So for all these different nonprofit groups and groups that are about helping people, she wants to get them all together so that they can combine efforts and kind of the way the artist, Logan was talking about how the artists all use synergy.
You're right. The community apparently is the theme today.
It is. It is. It's. And
Wow.
I think the reason why it's kind of coming across on the podcast is the theme today because it's kind of the theme in Wheeling.
Right.
I'm really getting that sense of so many people are appreciating community. Even, I mean, you've been doing it for a long time with.
Right.
Am I saying it right? OVASA?
Yeah.
For people that don't know what OVASA stands for.
That is the Ohio Valley African American Students Association, and we've been around now. This is our 8th year, and we originally started it because we were so concerned about the high dropout rate amongst African American students in the valley. Like it was, if you go from 9th grade to senior year, it was 70%.
Wow,
that's huge. But a lot of people will tell you they just go by the rate of from senior year on, and that's really high.
Yeah,
that's really high. But if you make it to be a senior, you're probably going to graduate. But the only way we could think of to help with that, we started a program where you rewarded and identified and appreciated anybody that's graduating or doing stuff. So that's how we started, and we've been moving ever since, man.
Keeps the kids in line and motivated, and gives them something to work towards.
We finally have our first 3 graduates from undergrad, and we have 1 graduate student, all from that have won. I mean, I don't want to say we're responsible, but they won. We rewarded them, and they went on and did amazing things. We had guys studying abroad in South America. It's rewarding when you look at it that way, when you're on the other end and see what's happening. It's great. And I don't know if us giving these kids rewards or scholarships or plaques or trophies helped, but I know it didn't hurt.
That's right. And I'm sure it did, though, because it doesn't take a lot sometimes to get a kid motivated in the right direction, and you don't necessarily know what it is that will help somebody get to the next level, but by just having the right frame of mind to help people, you just kind of the shotgun approach, you're helping people. Well, then the other thing that besides independent films that you're involved in is the movement.
Yeah.
Ohio Valley Hip Hop. People that don't know, hip hop in the Ohio Valley is incredible.
It's a real thing.
It is legit for sure.
What we got to do is be able to connect more with these other artists, though. That's the only problem. We're kind of off to ourselves doing this offshoot stuff. But the Bridge and Tunnel folks, we got to get down with them because I mean they're make sure that these gigs are happening, and I got to make sure that my guys get involved in all this stuff as well.
I agree. And I went to a heavy metal show. My man Corey Roth, who I just met, invited me to come see a metal show down at Goodfellas, and that's right. It's not the strip club, whichever one. I think it's called Goodfellas, yeah. And the metal scene's off the hook too.
I love that.
And the thing is, people listen to the Bridge and Tunnel alternative music are the same people that enjoy hip hop and the same people that enjoy metal. In fact, Corey was spitting out some rap for me. So I I think that these audiences would all appreciate each other's music, and
just keep missing each other, just barely. But eventually, we're going to link up.
And we're working kind of with Ezra Hamilton right now about putting together something where we can get everybody more coalesced and working together. But yeah, the local hip hop scene, of course, in our movie that we did together, Need or Greed, little knuckle bump there.
Yes.
We featured local hip hop music, and Jeff Madzai, the forward thinker of the group, said we should do a soundtrack, and I'm like, yeah, let's do a soundtrack. And people were coming up after the movie, not only wanting to buy DVDs, but we sold out of the soundtrack.
That blows my mind.
They're like, do you guys have that music? Was great, and it was great. It's legitimately as good as any music you'll hear anywhere.
Yeah, and these are cats that just are in basements, because nowadays a studio is just a computer and a mic anymore. They're just in basements and bedrooms making this music. And they don't make it necessarily with the idea of making money off of it or performing it. They just love the craft. They just like to be out there making it.
I agree. And I think even, for us with independent films and with all the different artists that we've been talking to, the measure of success is just doing your art. And it's not about a financial reward.
Exactly.
And I like that we're not about money with our films and the podcast, and to see all these people that are really about making art and doing the thing that they love, because there's an authenticity that you get when you don't have money involved. And the hip hop scene. I think people aren't aware of how good it really is.
You're right.
And probably the idea of local ones, they're amateurish, but they're not.
No.
And they're going for it 100%.
Yeah. We got guys coming now, like with the moves that group YNC is making, and the plans that Poetic Path have, and the emergence of this young guy named Corey Vance. I mean, there's just so many folks that you can name that are right there. This guy named Chance D out of Martins Ferry. He's got a small movement behind him where when he does shows, not only is he giving you a show that's great, high energy, lyrical, great music, he's got merchandise now.
Nice.
He's got his own clothing, and he's got CDs. So it's not like you're going to rap, you're going to say, hey, and check out my SoundCloud, and then leave.
Right.
You can walk away with a bunch. You can walk away a fan.
Yeah.
With proof that you're a fan, And that's rare with this hip-hop scene.
I think with having a person that's, for him doing that, will set the path in the right direction for other people to follow him and do the same thing.
Yes, it's going to be incredible when they do it.
We're doing a podcast.
Someone sit down. You're broadcasting?
We're doing a podcast.
You want to interview me? I'm checking in for my conference. You can sit down.
I'm sitting.
Oh, okay.
Do you know Ron Scott? Audrey was honored in a previous Y honorial thing.
Really?
This is Ron Scott Jr. He's in charge of cultural
Very nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
How are you?
Through the Y.
So for the podcast, who are we speaking with?
Audrey
Nobody.
Horn and Elisa Gross.
Oh, okay. Nice to meet you.
Two wonderful human beings, both with heavy involvement with the Y.
Oh, excellent.
Oh, and also, I want to tell you, we can always use help in the boutique. I'm here to recruit.
Okay, good.
And also, we can use help with this festival every year. Mr. Scott here is new in his position, and he is formulating his long-range plan. And we just had the annual meeting of the Y, and I had to tell him, I said, you can't be honored if you've only been on staff for 3 months. You have to wait for 6 months.
And what is your connection to the Y?
I'm not connected to the Y. I'm just doing a podcast here.
He's one of these local artists. He does.
What is
he's
your...
a filmmaker. He's a podcaster. He does so much
What
stuff.
is your name so we know who we're talking
James Wodarcyk.
about? What is it?
James Wodarcyk. This podcast is that I just do it for the enjoyment of doing it to help promote the arts.
How'd you get Ron to do it?
Oh, I've known Ron forever.
Yeah, I've been down with this
he
guy
knows everybody.
since he started
He
making
knows
these
Josh.
films.
He went to school with Josh.
So, are you guys okay with us recording this and having? We're going to put this
Audrey,
out
what
on
do
the
you
internet.
think? She doesn't live
I
here
don't.
for a full year, so she don't care, do you?
I could live with anonymity.
Because we're going to be putting this on the internet.
Well,
Well, there's apparently a costume
the
race.
challenge wheeling is happening.
Okay, we're seeing a bunch of runners go by in costume, and it's very exciting.
Oh, they must have to get a picture because it's like a scavenger hunt.
Oh, I
bet
see.
they have to get a picture with that monument in the background.
Oh, I see.
They seem to all be stopped there taking a picture.
I think we're going to pause for a second because I want to text a couple people and get them.
Forget that we're here. We're here for the chairs.
Okay.
We're here for the chair.
Welcome back. We took a little break there. We had a couple guests pop by and we decided to take a little break. Ron went out to get something to eat. You must have ran into him. Oh, here he comes now. And he said, you want something to eat? I'm like, Grant's got his kettle corn here. So he must have ran into Grant, and Grant delivered some of his amazing kettle corn. Open it up, Rosemary.
Well, no, is that from Popcorn?
No, we are not Popcorn. We are Wheeling Feeling kettle corn.
Oh my gosh, this is you.
Yeah.
I had no idea.
It's so good. I bought some last weekend at the Center Market Festival, and I had to share it because I was going to on the verge of eating the whole bag myself. And Ron's back. And also with us is my good friend Rosemary Ketchum. She turned around like, who's he talking about?
What do you mean?
Do we have another guest in the waiting here?
Yes.
Claudel
Whetstone.
Yes.
I'm telling you, you got to talk to that brother.
We'll definitely get him on. So, Grant stopped by for a minute, dropped off some kettle corn. How you doing, buddy?
I'm doing well.
How
are you?
Yeah. Open it up, man. We won't be able to stop eating it. I guarantee it's so delicious. Well, so for
the rest of the episode, you're not going to be chewing while talking.
That's right. And every time you hear us chew, you'll be thinking of Grant's. Tell me the name of the business again.
Wheeling Feeling Kettle Corn.
Feeling kettle corn.
And so I ran into Grant last week, and I've known Grant for a long time. I had no idea that he was doing that, but he was saying how much he loves doing it. And so explain what it is about doing the kettle corn business that's so enjoyable.
Well, mostly the fact that your work environment is at festivals, so I mean that's always a good thing. But I don't know, it's just a good time. We take pride in like giving people a quality snack and having a good time and making a little bit of money while you're doing it. So
get to meet new people
meet a lot of new people for sure.
They have a great smile on their face.
Thank you.
And I'm just realizing because you mentioned it that this is all part of the cast of Jeff Madzai's new film, Pancakes.
We're all in it.
You're all in
here.
Now,
just ironically, all down together at the same time.
And Jeff, we did a reading at Jeff's house a couple weeks ago, and everybody was great. That was able to make it. Now I know Ron was busy. He's a busy man. But then Jeff had messaged me that the first 2 days of filming are complete. They did all the scenes at his mom's house, the location at his mom's house. They did 5 scenes. He said it went great.
That was actually me. I was in those 5
You
scenes.
were. And
that was the second day of filming, though. The first day was actually at his house, if I'm not mistaken.
And he said that day went great as well.
And the second day was at his mom's, yeah.
So how are you liking acting?
It's great. Yeah, it was fun. It was a good
fun.
time.
You guys were killing it at the reading, and sorry I missed the first 2 days of filming, but you guys don't need me. You guys are good. I'd just slow you down. No, Jeff's so talented that, and he was smart. He knew that summer was coming, so he wrote it in mind to be able to film it by himself.
Yeah, that's what he said.
Yeah. And this is going to be your first acting role, too.
It will be. Yeah, I'm very excited.
Yeah, you're killing
First
it.
acting ever?
Ever.
Or first acting on camera?
No, ever.
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 Now, what part?
You guys are actually co-stars, Ron. I don't know.
We're going to be in most of the scenes together.
Of the lines together.
You're
right.
Steven.
Yes.
Formerly Sarah. I'm Elizabeth.
And there's
Simon.
3 of us. Simon.
Yeah.
Simon.
All right.
Simon is also very good, by the way, at least in the reading.
Who's playing Simon?
I don't know.
Is that Vincent?
I don't actually know. I
It's
think it is
Vincent.
Vincent.
Oh,
Vince Marshall?
Yes.
Vince Marshall.
Yeah.
Vince Marshall?
Yeah.
Oh, he's great.
It's going to
He's
be
really
so
good.
much fun.
He was great in the reading, for sure.
Yeah.
The whole cast was great in the reading, actually.
They are. I'll tell you, we're really blessed to have so many great actors. This new guy that Ron found, Dirk Conrad.
Right.
And I'll give a shout out to Dirk because we did a reading of the Ron script, The Sticks, and sight unseen, he just read this part of like an accountant, which was not a part that he was playing or even prepared to read for, and he nailed it. And I said, if we didn't already have you set for another part, you could play the accountant because I mean, the guy, and so between you guys and all the other people we've worked for, this valley is so filled with talented people.
Big things coming.
Yeah, I agree. And I'm hearing another one of my favorites. Josh Taylor's on stage, and I can hear in the background, and I'm sure you can hear it. I love this song.
Do you pick up the music on the podcast?
Yeah, I have the mic set bright on all my podcasts. In fact, my brother sent me a message before we started that he was listening to one of the ones we recently did at Later Gator. And you can hear sirens in the background. And he said he really liked that. And I agree. I like that. We can hear the ladies next door kind of greeting some people. Because we're in the real world, and we're out at Arts Fest, and we want it to sound like we're at Arts Fest.
Yeah.
And not that we're in a studio at Arts Fest, because then what would be the point in that?
Right.
So I always set the microphone so it picks up all the background noise, because I want people to get an idea of the setting. Yeah,
on location, live broadcast?
Yeah.
Are you broadcasting live, or is it just...
No, it's just being recorded live, yeah.
Okay.
I don't have the streaming capabilities. Hopefully by next year's Arts Fest, I will have it. Yeah, I had to look and make sure that we were actually recording.
Just wasted.
No, you need an engineer, too.
I would love to have a professional engineer. Kyle was here earlier. I was thinking about hiring him on as an engineer. Actually, one of the thoughts that I mentioned earlier is the idea of having an actual podcast studio, where it's already set up, and so it's really even wiring it. So you literally put an SD card in a slot and hit a button, and you're recording. And then when you're done, you hit the button to stop it, and you pop out the card and take it with you and upload it to the internet. And I think a lot of people have wanted to do podcasts. They like the idea of doing it.
Yeah, I love the idea. I actually talked to you about it a long time.
Yeah.
Back at Jeff's house. But I would love to do a podcast for sure.
I would. I encourage more people to do it. I don't think I should be the only one doing it, because people have other ideas and other ways of interviewing, and
absolutely,
and bring a little bit different flavor to it. And I should mention that Ron does a podcast.
Yeah,
Ron does
with Claudel.
With Claudel, he's going to be coming on. It's a great podcast too. There's some very interesting topics on there.
We've run into life got in the way. Both of the podcasters have had children.
Yeah.
So you got to take time when you have a child.
You guys have had some episodes since then, though, right?
No.
None.
No, not since the children.
Oh, really?
But, I have not had any children. So make sure that is put out there. I do not have any new children.
Once we get done today, we're gonna figure out a way on this podcast to get your podcast back on a reg.
Just to get the guys together, it'd be something. Get the band back together again. That'd be great.
And so, Rosemary, I ran into her yesterday and a couple weeks ago, and I wanted her to come on to talk about the group that she started. That is about. The theme of today has been about community. So, give us the name of your group and what it's about.
Our group is called Ohio Valley Together, and I'm part of a few groups and organizations in Wheeling, and Ohio Valley Peace, which is down here in the nonprofit section, and the Women's Democratic group, and the Young Democrats, and Move, Marchers Ohio Valley Empowered, and I recognized after being active in these groups that I would go and I'd talk about the other ones, and nobody knew anybody else, and they'd be like, who is that, or what do they do, and what's their thing, and like you were saying, James, we're so rich in opportunity here and ambition, which is rare, I think, that if we're not collaborating and we're not working together, then we're really wasting our time. Then we're really kind of like separate parts trying to do the same thing. Whatever you think about Hillary Clinton, her campaign slogan, Stronger Together, was pretty on point. Yeah. Because this makes so much sense. I mean, if we're working together, then we're getting something done more effectively than we would apart. So I recognized this problem, and I thought, that's not, that needs a resolution. And I looked for one, and I thought, there's got to be something else around that somebody else is doing that makes sense, that is doing this same thing. And there wasn't. So I thought, we need something to facilitate discussion and collaboration among all of the groups, because there are so many smart people, so many ambitious people, and of course they're busy, but they are wonderful at multitasking, which is such a rarity, but also such a wonderful quality to have. So me and a few women from the Marchers Ohio Valley Empowered drew up some plans for a new organization, Ohio Valley Together.
It's going to bring everybody together, and so that you guys can all pool your resources. And
that's absolutely right.
And if make sure that, like I think we were talking last night, where you said that a lot of times there's 3 or 4 events going on at the same time.
Yeah.
And so I think one of the things that Bridge and Tunnel Collective, that Josh, who's playing now, is part of, are really good about is that they keep from having two bands playing, shows across the street from each other. Instead, hey, let's just both play together at the same place in the same night, and so that people can combine their services in a way that maximizes the effort. And I think I mentioned Project Hope, where they bring medical care to the homeless, and so if you have another group that maybe brings food and clothing to the homeless, and they notice somebody that's sick, they can call Project Hope and have them take care of their medical needs. And if Project Hope realizes that someone needs a sleeping bag or whatever, they can call the group that provides the sleeping bags. And if everybody's working together and they stay in touch with each other, it just makes everybody stronger.
Yeah, that cohesion is absolutely essential. And we're small enough here in the Valley that can happen effectively and I would think rather quickly.
Right.
That's cool. Definitely people all pushing for the same goal, and I think that's it's so great to see so many people interested in helping other people than themselves. That's such a special thing to have in the community.
I like how it, I know when you get involved, like I was doing with Ovasa and stuff, it's so easy to get focused on your mission and what it is that you kind of get this tunnel vision thing. And like you were saying, don't realize there's like 5 other groups that have similar missions that we could all just be meeting together and knocking this whole thing out quickly.
And I think
I love the idea.
if you boil down the intentions of most of the groups, it comes down to just simple things like inclusion and tolerance and progress, social and cultural progress. I mean, these are all things that Ohio Valley Peace and the Democratic Women's and MOVE, that's all they have in common. I mean, they might take different steps to get there, but they're all working toward the same destination. So if we can all, combine our efforts.
Sure.
Hopefully you'll find that there's going to be other people that want to join up with what you're doing too later on that you haven't even thought of.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because there's a lot of people with similar missions that don't even know each other exist. Like you were saying, it just takes somebody like you that's involved in all of those things at once to kind of put them all together and loop them all in.
I found myself after meetings like standing up and saying, so here's what Ohio Valley Peace is doing, the Democratic Women's, or here's what MOVE is doing, Ohio Valley Peace, and maybe you should talk to them. Or, and so I've been the self-proclaimed moderator and kind of bringing the information to each other.
Yeah, being the conduit between the two. But
being that liaison.
I think, and so what the group that you started, now you're going to officially have liaisons from all the different groups?
Officially, and what we're thinking is that we're still in the think tank, stage, because I want to make sure I'm getting everybody's, it's not my group, it's everyone. So I want as much collaboration. I want to practice what I preach and say everybody gets a say in how it runs and how it functions. But our kind of preliminary idea is that we'll have a kind of a roundtable where each group sends a representative monthly or bi-monthly to discuss their events, their plans, their outreach, or what they need, resource-wise.
Sure. And
that's great.
Yeah, because there might be, we've been wanting to do this for a while, but we're missing this piece of the puzzle.
We don't know how to get there. We don't know who to talk to. Yeah.
We do that all the time. We can help you out. We can help you get to that next level.
Yeah.
I think that's everybody pulling together. That's what it is, man.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's my family right here.
And by the way, speaking of family and helping people, I should probably go help my wife pop some kettle corn.
Yes, Grant. Thank you for the kettle corn, man. Great to see you.
Thanks for having me on for a minute.
Looking forward to seeing you on.
Oh yeah.
Good to see you.
Looking forward to seeing you on Pancakes.
Hi,
Deasia. Lorenzo.
And my mother, and my aunt, my cousin Will, and my cousin Stace.
Hi, everybody. Are you guys having fun at the Arts Fest?
Claudel, grab that seat, buddy.
We're trying to find a spot to go to and have some shade.
It is a warm day out here. Lorenzo wants on the podcast. How you doing, buddy?
Good.
Oh, you're good?
This is the youngest member of the Ron Scott Empire.
Making history.
Yes.
Well, I know you don't have much to say, buddy. You're 2, so I don't think you got not a lot you can offer to conversation.
But Rosemary, if people want to find out more about your group, you're on Facebook?
I'm on Facebook, Rosemary Ketchum, Ketchum, or you could email me at Rosemary Vaughn, Vaughn, Ketchum@gmail.com.
Okay, and is the group have a Facebook page yet?
We don't have a Facebook page yet. I think once we get our constitution in order, our values and goals, which will be in the next week or so, then we'll have that all up and running.
Sounds great. Well, thank you so much for coming on, and we're going to have you come on again to do the full podcast so people can get to know more about the wonderful Rosemary Ketchum and one of my great new friends. And I'm so glad that we've become friends, and we all hung out last night and had a blast. And more that
becoming a force.
She is a force in the valley. I tell people, I'm like, do you know Rosemary? And they're like, Ketchum, and I'm like, yeah. They're like, hell yeah, I know her. So thanks again.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
It's just gonna be Rosemary.
It's just it's Oprah.
Will know.
Oh, let's wait.
All other Rosemarys will have to change their name.
Thank you guys so much. I had a blast.
All right, enjoy your day.
I'll talk to you soon.
Yeah, we'll probably see you after this.
Okay.
Cool.
Be safe, guys.
All right, now we're going to get into some local hip hop.
Listen, I never get this opportunity often, right?
Yes.
So let me introduce this brother here who's bringing to the podcast. This is James' podcast, and he's killing it right now.
Are you?
But this is the best way to describe this man is the Ohio Valley's hip hop architect, historian.
Damn.
Because there isn't an artist. Well, I haven't found one yet. There isn't a hip hop artist in this valley that he hasn't either recorded with, performed with, or written with. Like it's just wow.
Except for MC Tracksuit.
MC Tracksuit.
That's me. I'm gonna be the hype man for.
Is that your stage name?
Yeah, it's gonna be MC Tracksuit.
No, it's too hot for a tracksuit.
It is.
MC Short Set.
So how long have you been into the local hip hop?
Man, you know, it's going on a decade. It's over a decade, man.
Yeah.
It's kind of weird to say things like that, but you know, I've been in the game here locally for over 10 years. You know, with either writing or, you know, it all started out with mentorship, to be honest with you. So a lot of these cats that's running around now that's actually doing it big, going to South by Southwest and traveling out of state to do these festivals and do these other shows, you know, they all started out all in the same group. You know, it's like it's kind of cool to watch come full circle.
Yeah.
You know?
To be like the as Ron said, the architect, and to see everybody finally blossom. Because I imagine getting something like that off the ground doesn't happen overnight.
Well, no, I mean, you know, and I'm not definitely not taking credit for the scene that blew up, but I was part of a huge blossom, of a huge explosion of just hip hop in this area, man. There hasn't been since then such a diverse group of people and like-minded people that would come together and write music and do songs and travel and go do shows. And you know, it's crazy. You get a phone call at like 2 a.m, like, I gotta do a show at 4, and you're like, man, why didn't you set this up? But then you just hop in the van and you go, and then that creates an experience. And you know, just doing that for the longest time, since pretty much the beginning of, really, in all honesty, I mean, I can't think of hip hop before that time. I mean, you had Jay Johnson, you know.
Listen,
Mad Tours.
MC Hans from way back. Like, I was young, and this dude I remember his album cover, CD cover, was him pouring a 40-ounce of beer on some cereal. But it wasn't really taken seriously.
Right.
And then once these guys started pushing stuff, he did like the first show.
Well, yeah, the first really, I want to contribute. If you really want to contribute, the first performance that kind of set it off, you know, that in my opinion, I'd have to give that to like Regis.
Okay.
He did the Afran Fest one time, and I mean, that was the first time that I had experienced hip hop live in this area. And people were up, and you know, I think he might have been like 13, 14 years old at the time.
What year would that have been?
Man, that was 90.
Was it really?
94, 93. I mean, it was early. It was, I mean, way. But before then, you didn't have anyone performing hip hop here. You know what I'm saying? It was still on the radio. I mean, this is West Virginia, so country music was a thing. You know?
Yeah.
And then, in all honesty, there really wasn't a hip hop station like that around here. You know, you gotta go as far as Pittsburgh or Columbus to kind of pick up anything good. But so yeah, Watts, he threw the first show in the Valley. I attribute that to him. got a little stage and did his thing over there in Ohio. But I can't think of a hip hop show done at a venue here in Wheeling before I did it at the Lion's Head.
That's awesome.
The old Lion Head, yeah. So,
and I mean, there always has to be somebody that's the first one, right?
Yeah. But I'm pretty sure someone will be like, "No, man, I did the first one over here."
Sure
but not like that show. That show was probably like that show.
The thing is important is his studio work. He's an engineer as well, so he can take an artist and put him in the booth,
which
and
is
make
important.
What your lyrics on paper and a beat, and he can make them into a song. Like I've seen him work with a couple of artists where he's suggesting things you got to do, like in this song, stuff you got to do, and the artist is like, "Come on, man, let me be me," and then he would end up doing it and play it back for him, and they would be like, "Okay, all right, I see what you're talking about."
Because you've walked down the path before, and so
I see what you mean.
Yeah, man. Man, you should. The scene is really huge right now. I mean. And a lot of them, again, came from all in the same group. So they used to all collab and everything. And it was really cool to kind of get in there and be like, "Hey, man, learn how to breathe or finish out this sentence, man, before you got two breaths after one word, man. Just chill out, get it all out." You know what I mean? Like, so the mentorship, along with Corey Hickman, he was definitely a part of it. But the mentorship is really probably the biggest gain I got out of it all. There's a lot of people doing things right now that it's like, dang, man, I remember when we used to rap about like shooting guns and wearing big fat chains and rolling around in a big Mercedes, and you was only 11. I remember telling them things like, "Hey, man, if you're not carrying a gun right now, let's not write about that. Like, let's reel it back a little bit, write about things that you're doing, because there's somebody out there that's doing that too. They want to hear that. If school's bothering you, write about school bothering you. Trust me, it's bothering a lot of people. Man,
I think that's such great advice, because for me, anything that anybody does, I want to hear authenticity. I want to hear what's coming from their heart, not what they're copying off of what they see their heroes do. You want to know the person, and I think in hip-hop especially, the lyrics, the more personal they are, the more that people enjoy them. And like you said, people are going through all those same things,
right.
And even like the most mundane things that we think of in our life that are problems, that everybody experiences those things, and we want music to help us connect with that.
Right. I mean, I think the biggest albums in the world are some of the most personal, off the wall and bad, both. It's the most personal songs of Michael Jackson that stick with me, like Dirty Diana is my stuff. You know what I mean? If you want to go alternative, Jagged Little Pill, written, Alanis Morissette, very, very, very personal, and that's a classic. And Nirvana's first one, Teen Spirit, I mean, that was deep and classic. It's about not nowadays. They're like, write what you think they want to hear, right? Write about this. It's like they can really walk in and get, "Oh snap, we got a twist. Thank you. You came over and gave us a surprise twist.
Thank you."
Nowadays they're like, "Hey man, write about this or write about that," and they can walk in a room and there's 50 people that are just like, "Yeah, I'm gonna write about that," but it's not personal to them. So,
right?
You know what I mean? It's like if I write about walking through like my hood or something like that, it's like I can tell you that I'm walking through my hood, or I can tell you the sound of the footsteps, the sound of the cars coming through.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? The smell and the, you know what I mean? Like what I see and things like that. Like get deep like that. That's the main thing that I think today's hip hop, and it's just driving me nuts. It's like killing me.
That's where I kind of because I used to follow hip hop a lot more when I was younger. In fact, I think when I met Ron, I told him that I was a big fan of PE.
Oh yeah, Public Enemy.
And he's like, I think you're a little surprised actually that I was into PE, but I like that because I mean Chuck was talking about something, and so when it became about partying and all that, I kind of lost interest. The guns and the partying and all that stuff, because I mean at that stage of my life that wasn't anything that I was doing or that I was interested in listening about. But man, when I would listen to Public Enemy, it'd make me think about a world that I never experienced. Right. I'm like, man, there's shit going on out there that I don't know about. Right. And it was a kind of an education for me, and then I went way deep on Ice-T back in the day too, and you know, people, I think maybe his credibility suffered a little bit from being on Law and Order SVU or whatever.
Hey, he said, "Look at that check and tell me if that." Look at that check.
And
I tenured now.
And I'll tell you, man, you listen to interviews with the guy. He's so smart.
Yeah.
He knows what he's doing, and you know, his lyrics always cut really deep with me. But back then in the '90s, that was the hip hop that I was really interested in, and like I said, you thought it was kind of curious that I was into PE, but we were talking earlier about how people cross over to different kind of musics, because here you're on talking about hip hop, but you reference Alanis Morissette and Nirvana, and so any more people like all kind of music, so we're and I pointed out that my friends that are in alternative music and heavy metal, they also like hip-hop. So I think we're at a great period in Wheeling where we can get exposure to the local hip-hop scene, because everything I've heard, or at least most of the stuff that you've turned me on to, is completely legit. And I think that all my friends, if they had exposure to it, would love it.
I don't think the thing with hip-hop in this valley is, I think that it needs to be in with all the other music.
I agree.
Because if I go to these festivals and I go to these shows, I'm seeing country stars and I'm seeing rock stars and I'm seeing like alternative stars. And I rarely, every once in a while, they'll pop like some rapper in there or something like that, you know, and there's one, you know, but I think it all needs to be included. I mean, there's a main stage right now, and I think hip-hop needs to be represented on there at least once, you know.
I couldn't agree more.
I'll tell you, the coolest thing was my kids do music, so I'm at every show, you know. Yeah. And the other day they did John Legend's Glory, and who's rapping on that?
I don't even remember.
I should know this. Common.
Yeah,
Common,
right.
Okay, yeah. So Common's rapping on this, but they had the kids rapping on this, and I'm thinking in my head like I'm looking around like I don't think people understand. Like, this is the first time, in Wheeling, West Virginia, this is the first time that I've seen kids rap at a huge festival, because you know the festivals go down here. Like our music shows are huge. They're thing. You know what I mean? They have names and billboards and stuff.
Right.
And so I mean, he's rapping Common, and I'm like looking around, and I'm like, this is beautiful. Like, I'm like, this is beautiful, and I like ran up, grabbed my kid, I like hugged him, and I was like, man, you don't even know what just happened. He was like, man, what's going on? I'm like, man. So you had to like really break it down to him, like, man, like just that little small little 2 Common verses, man, it was a big deal, at least for me.
Yeah,
you know,
it's the start of something big, right?
Right.
It's the step in the right direction.
Right, and then everybody was clapping. People were old ladies was clapping, you know, and it was like, man, this is cool. Like, geez, there it goes. There's a seed right there. You know?
I think all the scene really needs is exposure for people to know that it's there, and to get a couple opportunities to play some of these bigger venues where it's a different audience.
Right.
And because once they do, the music's so good. We were talking earlier for Need or Greed. People were coming up to us after the film going, that music was really good, where'd you get that? And we're like, oh, that's all local people, and we have a CD, and we sold out of the soundtrack to that thing.
Nice. I tell you what, there was a great show. It was a hybrid show. It was a hip-hop artist and a rock group called Nova Prospect, and it was done at the 10. It wasn't the 1080 back then. It was at what's now the 1080.
This was a while ago then?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
But it was a hybrid show, and I can remember people talking like, I don't know about this, man. You know, this hard rock and da-da-da-da-da. Man, I mean, I don't know if the crowd. Man, one of the best shows we did. I mean, Nova Prospect came out and killed it. They did a hard rock version of Fresh Prince in Bel-Air.
Oh, nice.
I mean, they just rocked it, and we came out and rocked it, and like the crowd they never lost that level, man. And I mean, it was just great. So I mean, I've seen it combined. I've felt that. It's like that. It's like you know, when you first go to that Lil Jon concert and you witness that power of crunkness, you know what I mean? Like, yeah, man, that's a real thing. Like,
I went to see I just met this dude, Corey Roth. I mentioned him earlier on the podcast, so he's getting a double shout out. He's in a metal band called Brimstone Coven. They're incredible. But when I met him, he was spitting out some raps for me. And so I think if you had a crossover show with them, and because the metal scene is very loyal followers, and these guys are good. And I think their audience would love the local hip-hop, and I think the local hip-hop crowd would love these guys because they're just good, and they're passionate about what they're doing, and to the point where they're not even referred to as crossover shows, where they're just shows. It's a music show. It's local music. It's all good.
That's where I want to be, man, because I don't think that, I mean, I've never thought that hip-hop got represented in a way, but in a way, it's sort of its own fault. It's a competition, so you're always trying to knock down the top person and all, you know what I mean? But when you get to the point to where you refuse to acknowledge the people that came before you because it's like, nah, man, I'm a dog them and da-da-da-da-da, like, nah, man, you don't see that in rock and roll. You don't see, you know what I mean? You don't see the chain smokers like, forget Metallica. Like, you don't see them doing that. And it's like, it kind of hurts my soul to see like, I mean, back in my day, it was like Cannabis versus LL. It was like, dude, you're not going to win this battle. No matter what you say. It's like, that's still LL. And, or when people rewrite because they want to check their references. And I'm like, nah, man, you grew up watching He-Man Transfer. Like, you could put that. Put that. Like, we need to document that. Like, do that.
Yeah, keep it as close to reality as possible.
Like, don't try to reference whatever they got out now or the newest thing. Or, like, just, nah, man, whatever you seen or saw or seeing, like, just write about it, man. Put it down.
Like, I think people are really good anymore at sniffing out when things are fake. And everything in our lives are really not that real anymore. Facebook interactions, people, their Facebook page is all about what they want the world to think they are, and even mine is not a true reflection of who I am. I always try to put my best self out there, and so and that's the interaction that a lot of people have. How many people do you know more well through Facebook than in real life? So in music and art and just around people, you want authenticity. You want to get to the real person, and you don't want to just regurgitated crap of someone else. You want to get to know them, and I think what made hip hop great in the first place was it was people talking about their neighborhoods, and they didn't think that they were going to ever make money at it.
Right, but you want to know something weird is you get some of them critics that are like, all they talk about is this, and all they talk about is this, and guns and blah 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 blah. However, if you were good at what you did, like it don't matter. 10 rappers could have said the same line, I'm walking through my hood, but after that, if you were good, I could see your different hoods. Like, I could see your different buildings. I could see the different people. I could see the different clothes they wear. Like, you know what I mean? It really wasn't the same if you paid attention, you know what I mean? And then you understood it was like every city, every ghetto. It's like there are other places like this, but check out these like different qualities of this person. This person talks this way, the different slang. You know what I mean? The way they dress, it all comes into play. But I think that's what's unique about hip hop. I don't think you get that out of country music. You're right. I think when they talk about that fishing spot, it's the same damn fishing spot.
Well,
everybody.
I hate to say it, but a lot of times what you have in country music is a songwriter writes a song for somebody, and they ain't never been fishing in their life, and they've never been on a tractor, and it's a different. I think country music is a little bit more directed towards a mass market, and it's kind of when alternative music came in, it displaced like your mainstream rock music, and I think that audience now moved over to country for the people that just want to turn on the radio and have something that they immediately can connect to, and they don't really have to reach to get it. And hey, for the people that's what they want, give them that. But for the people that want something authentic and original, give them that. And
there's, I'll tell you what, as far as country music nowadays, I will say their writing, at least from what I'm hearing, is getting 10 times better, man. Getting way better.
Storytelling.
I'm an avid watcher of The Voice, thanks to my baby mama. There's this chick on there, and she did this song, Deja Vu. And man, if I've never liked a country song in my life, that was my first one. Like, geez Louise, like, she killed it. I mean, I just remember it going off like, all right, like, that's the writing. Like, that was it right there. It was on point. But
well, I think in a genre where it is so corporate and that the people in country music that are authentic, I think they'll rise to the top. And songs like that where they start speaking. If you're a country music artist out there and you start speaking from your heart, you're going to rise to the top if you have talent.
Right,
yeah.
Right. But nowadays music, I think, in a way, it's kind of being like, there's like this de-authentication of it. There's like a breakdown of it, kind of all. I mean, I think, especially with hip hop, I think the pulse after Biggie and Tupac died, and I don't want to sound old or nothing, but I mean, if you were there, like that pulse after that died, all of hip hop changed. What they were promoting, what they were put, you know what I mean? What sold, everything changed after that moment, and it kind of became regurgitated. Like, and anybody who's listening to who's listened to our podcast knows that I'm just not a little Uzi Vert fan. Right. I'm not a fan of Savage, even though I've heard a couple songs that I like. I'm just not a fan of that being on the radio over, let's say, a Don Q or a Joyner Lucas. Like someone like that, I'm just not with that. I'm not, you know, I turned on my Xbox and Uzi Vert's on my Xbox, and I'm like, why is he on there? Like,
yeah, who made that decision?
Right, and I just think that there's other representatives that you could be putting face first, other than trying to. It's like you're trying to buy him to the top. It's like you're trying to make him what we remember in 5-10 years. That's not who I. That's yeah.
That's interesting because since I fell out of hip hop, like, you know, in the after really the '90s, same thing with alternative music. There was all these great original artists that came up from the underground, and they all had their own sound. And then, as they kind of aged out, the second wave came through, and it was people copying the first wave, but they distilled it down to the most marketable aspects of what came before them. So for me, I listen to stuff from the 2000s, and it doesn't nearly appeal to me as much as the original stuff from the 90s when people were really individualistic. And I don't want to hear like a somewhat rehashing of things that were going on when it all started. I want to hear original new ideas, and unfortunately I think things go in cycles, and the good thing is I think after a while people get sick of that regurgitated music, and then someone comes along and they do something really original again, and everybody's like, oh yeah, that's how you should be doing it.
Right.
And
the thing with music now is there's too socialized. There's too much of it coming in from everywhere, whereas it was like, you know, you had your boom tap style when hip hop first started. You know, can I get to my mama's house?
Oh, I love that
style, right? And then Rakim kind of switched it up to where you had a more of like a quicker tongue, whatever. And then that kind of played into that was kind of like the basis of the New York style now. You know what I mean? And then you had Bone, who just boom. That was the speed knot style or the quick tongue, whatever. But then it started to slow down, like slow down. Now there's like 3 words a bar, and I'm like, and then in some cases one, like that's a real thing. In some cases there's literally 1 word a bar, and they call it they call it hashtag rap. Like I remember when Drake and somebody was in the dang on lawsuit because they was like, you can't hashtag rap, that's ours. Like, it's 1 word a bar. Like, you're good, bro. Like, yeah, so I mean, like I've witnessed the evolution. Yeah, I study hip hop, man. I'm telling you. So I witnessed the evolution, man, and I'm not seeing it now. It's not evolving. It's not. It's there's something missing.
Kind of get a stagnant part.
I can't see the pictures no more. You know.
Yeah. It's like they're not even trying to paint them. Either.
Right.
I think what I think the future of like the alternative music, which is my background, and maybe for hip hop it'll be the DIY, the underground. It'll be the people, someone coming out of Willing rather than one of the big cities like, you know, used to be it was New York or LA, and even for rock music, you had to go to L.A. get a record contract, and now the really good bands are coming out of small towns, where that individual spirit, they don't care. It's not about like trying to get the big contract. It's about just doing that as art.
Well, there's a reason for that, because people in small towns ain't got nothing to do but YouTube.
Right.
So like, they on YouTube. They got a couple of videos on there. I mean, you can attest. I've always said the first person that comes out of Wheeling will be the sound of Wheeling.
Yeah.
Point blank. Period. The first person that pops in Wheeling will be that. That will be.
They'll set the tone.
Right, and it'll go from there.
That's how Nirvana did Seattle.
Yeah,
they said, because there was ska bands and there were industrial bands and all that, and then Nirvana hit, and then they were known for grunge. But before that, all these other bands, like, what happened? We were doing this beforehand. We're a Seattle band, but you're right. I think whoever hits first, they're gonna
they'll define the sound.
And don't just say Nirvana. You got Nirvana. You got No Doubt.
Yeah.
You got Limp Bizkit and when Limp Bizkit and Kid Rock came out, that changed the game a lot.
Yeah.
I mean, people started adding these hip hop tones to their like mellow alternative. It was like kind of weird to me, but I enjoyed it. But yeah, man. So I mean, there was a lot. The '90s was probably like the best era for music.
I agree,
because everybody was trying to be an individual, and everybody was trying new things, and it wasn't so easy. I'm gonna give Chris Claiborne a shout out, but a lot of the things that he's doing now, like, I had to do manually. Like, there's certain ways that he can echo with one button that I had to go in and switch this and do that and whatever. And I always tell the story of like Corey Love, who's another producer around here. I always tell the stories of like when me and him used to take a tape from one boombox and put it in the other and record over that and then put it back in the other boombox for our doubles. Like, that's how hip hop like took over, man. We weren't just out playing football and playing in the mud and stuff, man. Like, we were like literally in there making songs at like 8, 9, 10. Like, these are true recorded. Yeah. These are true songs with hooks and verses and like bridges and all type of stuff, man.
So, do you think that maybe because of the technology not quite being there, that you really had to take the time to do it and figure out how to do it? And if you're putting that much attention into technically how to record the song, that you're also putting that much time into the song that you're doing. If you're going to spend 12 hours trying to figure out how to record a song, you're going to make sure that you're doing something that's really good. Whereas when you could go into like a computer now and record a song, you're like, hey, I wrote some lyrics and we're just going to throw it together. I mean, I find that with film, even for us, I'm guilty of it. One of the first scripts I wrote, I'm like, I wrote a script, let's make a movie. And not thinking like, was it a good enough script worth the time that you would invest in watching a movie? I've learned from that now, but I think something about the technology where you had to really work hard for it.
Right.
There's something to be said for that.
It is. I remember the 16 chord recorder, 32 chord recorder.
Yeah.
Where you had to like take a chord out, put it in another slot, record that one from this one, and then like there was these combination of chords. You don't remember this? Oh man, that was like studio. That was like studio quality stuff. You had to take your jacks and put them in all these different slots. One fit in the 16 to get a double over 16, and then 2 fit in it. Like, dude, it was crazy.
So you had to really be committed to what you're doing and passionate about what you're doing to take the time to learn all that.
Yeah, I mean, no formal training, all experience, man.
Teach yourself, yeah.
And let me tell you, I watch my kids now, and it's great because it's like they know Michael Jackson, they know New Edition, they know Bobby Blue Band, they know some stuff, man, and they're all playing instruments. My son can play 2 now, and my daughter's doing her thing, and I think she done got bit with the acting bug though, but. Yeah, man. So it's really cool. But I'm an artist, so we grew up drawing, we grew up singing, we grew up all that stuff. So it's kind of cool to watch them branch out and whatnot. Get their own like little personality and get their own scene. I'm like everywhere, man. They probably gonna do a poem here in like an hour.
Are you really?
Yeah.
Words. Right here. Yeah.
Probably. So I'll probably end up hitting the stage here pretty soon, and we'll be doing that. And then I was just talking to Ron. I mean, maybe get that art gallery up. Everyone seems to be interested in it. That would be cool. That would be a neat little thing to do for the Valley.
Tell me more about that.
Well, it'd be cool to get a bunch of artists together, kind of theme it out. I wanted to do like a picture of their favorite artists, and put it in the gallery, kind of give them a chance to sell their artwork and put it in front of people who actually buy artwork and hang it up in their house. You know what I mean? Like I got a dude that in love with Kiss, man. In love with Kiss. So I mean, any decent portrait or any decent artwork of Kiss, like he'll get it. So it'd be cool to like, hey man, this 12-year-old or 16-year-old drew a picture of Kiss, and maybe he'll buy it, just walk through the gallery. But that'd be cool to kind of get that on their resume. Listen, I've sold artwork. I've been in the gallery. You know what I mean? Like stuff like that.
We had an earlier conversation with an artist, Logan Schmidt, about having like getting a building where people can rent out artist studios, where you really help build an artist community. And I have a group that I started with some friends of mine over the winter called Kinetic Aesthetics, and it's an underground art movement. So it's for all the people that maybe don't get exposure to the public like that. So art events and shows where people who don't necessarily get a chance to sell their artwork and to display it for the public have a chance to get involved. So, I think that's a great idea. That is. I mean, that's one of the specialties of the movement. You know what I mean? Like provide avenues, as many avenues as we can to get artists out here, because it's not easy, and if you don't have the right connections or the right person to speak to, then it's going to be 10 times harder, unless someone walks up and goes, hey man, we want you to stick your painting on this wall right here, maybe somehow buy it. Like most likely, like they won't be able to sell artwork because they just won't, they won't take that initiative to go, or they don't know how to take that first step. So if you can get them a place and be like, hey man, you really should bring your art over, put it up on the wall, like let people actually take a look at it, let a couple people critique it, look at it, wink at it, whatever it is you do. Man, I think that would be awesome. And some people, all they really need is just that one leg up to the next rung, and then they're off and climbing. Right. And hopefully you create the spirit that, all right, we helped you get to this rung, and now you're off and climbing. Don't forget to turn back every now and then and grab the guy below you, and which is exactly what it sounds like you're doing by mentoring everybody. You came through first, and now you're looking out for the people coming up. And I mean, you always got to. I mean, I still get phone calls, and they still ask me for advice, or hey man, listen to this song, and hey, should I do this? But I never. It wasn't just me. It was, me, Corey Hickman. Watts played a huge role. Corey Love played a huge role. But the pulse at that time was just crazy. I mean, we took it from here to Pittsburgh, from here to Columbus, from here to Dayton, from here to Florida, New York, awesome. Georgia. You know what I mean? Like, and it all started from here. But life kind of takes over. And then kind of reel it in and just kind of go back to the mentorship, man. Like let's see what the next run's going to do. What do you think? Anybody that's listening to this, if they wanted to get involved or any way help take things to the next level? I know Ron said that booking shows is kind of hard, finding venues and that. Right. That they can hit me up or hit you up or hit Ron up to pitch in and really help. Yeah, if you're from this area, The key thing is to start networking. Yeah. Really get to know the people around the scene, because I mean they're gonna be able to introduce you to other people that'll be able to introduce you to other people. That's the first step. I think if you're not from here, the first step is again to just network, man. Yeah. Because you gotta know what's out there. You gotta know your competition. You gotta know what sound is out there or what moves this dude's made and what messed him up. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like that's from everybody's right. So I agree. The main thing to do is like network, and the second thing is just get your stuff out there. I don't care if you're performing at McDonald's, man. Perform at that McDonald's. You know what I mean? Do what you got to do. Get your stuff out there. And I mean that networking. That's the key to starting out. But you can't do it by yourself. You just can't. I agree.
You can't. You need a team, man. You need a team. You need people behind you to be like, hey, man, you're being stupid right now. Let's focus on this money. Or, hey, man, I just heard so-and-so did this. Maybe we should try it this way,
And support each other, because I think when your neighbor does well, it shouldn't be seen as, well, that's taking away from you. It's actually helping you, because if, like you said, one person blows up around here, it brings attention to everybody. Everybody does well by that. And if you're a fan of hip hop in general, be a fan of local hip hop, because I was thinking about this the other day. I was out riding on the motorcycle, and I thought, there's so many talented musicians in town from all kinds of music that I like, that why not get the album of someone local, get into it, and like have that's my new favorite album, and then I could go see them like 3 miles away, instead of like buying a CD from some national artist that I'll have to wait till they come around and go to Pittsburgh to see them, when the stuff around here is as good as anything made anywhere else. So check out all the local stuff. Become a fan of the local stuff. And,
right, because that's your sound, man. That's where it is right now. I mean, Willie has the thing with when we did it, there was diverse sounds, man. Like, no one raps like Endo, no one raps like Chance, no one raps like Watts, no one raps like me, no one raps like any, you know what I mean? No one raps like, I think what's happening now is like there's sort of it all sounds the same a little bit. There's like, it's all the same cadence and everything. But at the same time, I mean, people are dope. You got Kells is dope, Jay Nice is dope, Peth is dope.
Oh yeah.
Skinny Red's dope. Everybody's dope who's doing it. Like, I can't name a whack person, like, just like listen, bruh, maybe you should take this avenue. Like,
you should try acting.
Right. There's not one of
Sculpting
those.
is for you.
There's not, but I mean, we had a couple of those when we were doing it, but they got demolished. Like, it was nothing. But there's not one of that right now. I'm not finding too many of that. Like, these people are really good and they're really polished. It's like, where are these babies coming from, man? They're coming out polished, man. They're coming out, knowing how to write 16 bars and all that stuff now. Like, it's pretty cool, man. I like to sit down and listen and watch the whole scene evolve. And Ron's the ambassador now.
I'm trying.
Ron's the ambassador now.
I want to just see us like here, festivals like this. Anywhere there can be a venue, like you were saying.
Right.
Why isn't there hip hop there? I need a good explanation for why.
I know, for my part, I'm gonna keep on the podcast and through other things.
I just gotta run.
Ron don't take me to the meetings. That's what he need to do. Cause I would have been like, nah, man, like, cause. Hey, listen, we used to go, they'd be like, the show's over at 2 o'clock and we can't fit you in. I said, all right, well, 2:01, we're setting up. And this festival is going to go on for an extra 15 minutes because we done rode down here and we performed.
That's right.
Yeah, I mean, that's how it used to really be. Like, no, we don't know if we can fit you in here. We got so-and-so artist, da-da-da. Like, we would go to the artist and be like, look, dog, we don't mean no disrespect, but we going to fit in right here.
Yeah, we drove all this way.
And they'd be like, listen, we going to do our set too. And by the end, like, you ain't going to do it to all of us, so we still up in here. We going to do our set.
That's right.
Dang it.
And around here, it should be, with all the other music, it shouldn't be the last set of the night. It's just, we'll give you a couple minutes. It should be in the mix with everybody else. Right. And so I'm going to keep putting the word out there.
All right, man.
And
shall return.
All right, Ron's got to roll out for a minute.
Yeah, my kids and them are down there. I got to make sure my mother is all right.
Okay.
Yeah, right. Yeah, we're gonna go. I'm gonna take my daughter here to the pool.
Yeah, she's ready to go too.
Yeah. Are y'all? How long you been doing this podcast?
I've been doing the podcast since April Fool's Day. Actually, I figured that was a fitting, since I didn't know what the hell I was doing, that I would just do it on April Fool's Day, and then if it didn't go well, I would just say that it was a joke. But it's been doing pretty good.
Has it? Yeah, we did it for a while.
Yeah, actually, before you came on, I told Ron that while you were here, we were going to figure out how we can get you guys back onto a regular schedule. And
that's what we really need to do. And I got a couple plans in the work to bring back the Movement podcast, because I got people still hitting me up like, hey, man, we missed it, man. The episodes are hilarious. They're really informative. They're more informative than what I'm like, oh, man, that's right. I did know that. Like, yeah, feeling good about myself.
And yeah, because when you do them, talking to people, you get to a depth that you don't normally get, where you find out that. And Ron was saying that you guys get downloads from all over the world.
Yeah, we were. Let's see, Stitcher Radio, iTunes, SoundCloud, all the normal culprits. You know what I mean?
And I think he said like Germany and Japan, and
that was, man. Who was it for the longest time? Amsterdam. For the longest time, Amsterdam was we were really popular in Amsterdam. We were really popular in Japan for some reason. There was another one, like Yugoslavia or something. It was like some random spot that I didn't even know they were allowed to even like watch internet. Then it was just like, but I mean, that's amazing.
Someone hears it, they tell their friends, and next thing you know, you got fans overseas.
But what's really cool is like, a couple hundred people heard my voice over there. A couple hundred people heard my opinion, and you know that's really cool, and it's always documented.
Yeah.
You know, there's going to be a lot of podcasts out there right now, but you know, you can tell the difference between a really good one and where the people kind of get along, and you know, there's that what's that called, that rapport between everybody, as opposed to where like you just got two people that are just paid to be there.
Yeah.
You know, it's like we weren't paid to be there. Like we just wanted to have some fun, give out our opinion, and leave it at that.
And I mean, you guys love what you're doing, and you're passionate about the local scene, so that I think that comes through.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, and you wouldn't even think the scene was that big. I've been naming off names all this whole time, man. Like you wouldn't even think it's that big here in you know, Bygall, West Virginia.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, Ron, he shared me when I first met Ron. He shared with me some of the ciphers for the I think were done before the Hip Hop Awards a couple years in a row. I'm like, wow, there's a lot of people doing hip hop around here. I didn't realize that there were that many.
Oh man, and then to think that you know you had a part of the scene is really cool, man. It's like no matter what, one of my biggest things is when they go to tell the story of hip hop or anything in this valley, they're going to have to mention my name.
Right.
They're going to have to mention my name. They're going to have to mention Corey Hickman, Corey Love. They're going to have to mention Watts. They're going to have to mention like a lot of people, man. But it's just really cool to have like my name in that mix, man. You know, it's really cool to have anybody doing anything right now, like just to call me up, like, hey, man, like I'm having trouble with this. You know, how should I approach this? Or hey, can you help me with my writing or stuff like that? You know, that's bigger than any of the songs I wrote, you know.
Because that shows that they respect what you've done. And
Right. But I do want to, I should go ahead and put out a song here real quick because I think they're starting to forget.
Yeah, let
them know real quick. I should put out something. Do it up real quick.
Oh, I think that'd be great.
Yeah.
I hope that there's a lot more shows in the future, and you know, this setup is totally portable. All I need is an electrical outlet. So I know sometimes you guys have a hard time getting over to the studio to do the podcast, and I'll come over, engineer, set it up, sit back and listen to you guys. Yeah.
Talk to Ron, man. I'm definitely down to do it. We need to schedule it a little better and actually get some topics and all that stuff, and you know, get some real logistics going on, take it serious, but
get a regular schedule set up and everything.
Right.
Like,
that'd be cool.
For what I do here now, I've been doing a lot of them over at Later Gator. I get up on the stage there, which might be kind of cool to do some of your podcasts from there, because now you're up on stage, and even if people aren't there for that, they're like, oh, what are they doing on the podcast? Oh, they're doing the Movement Local Hip Hop Podcast. Builds awareness of it, and then they know that you're doing I'm going to go home and listen to that. Anything that gets a word out there, but I definitely think we need to get it going again, because people are wanting it, and any way that I can facilitate that, man, I'm always...
All right, man, I'm always down. You know, you know how it is.
Yeah.
You know how we're on it. My boy Bake, man, I wish he was here. But if we can get us three back together, it'd be awesome.
Incredible, yeah.
It'd be awesome. That would be cool. Well, maybe even like for like a little mini series, man. Maybe like a little 10-part mini series. We'll work it out.
We'll figure something out. And I definitely want you to come on again. Just come on my podcast again. And anybody that's out there that's doing it that you think would need some exposure, or that would be, good guests to come on here, and you could come on and co-host. I'll just sit back, so we can even, or release it as a dual podcast. That way, the hip hop artists are reaching my audience, and I'll just sit back and listen.
Hey, we can definitely do that.
Yeah.
We definitely gotta get together, a little networking. You know what I mean? And, do it up.
Because I think there's a big audience out there for what you guys are doing that just don't even know it's out there.
Yeah. Just gotta, like you said, get them to that next little run, that next little tier, and they'll just take off. I'm about to take her to go get in this pool.
Yeah, I've been here since 11, and I think I'm going to wrap it up too and go and enjoy some of Arts Fest. And
nice. All right, say bye, baby.
Bye. Ron's been telling me all about you for a long time, so it's great that we finally got to meet.
Good to meet you.
And,
good to meet you.
Hopefully we get to hang out a lot in the future. You're great.
Yeah.
Man, I enjoyed meeting you and talking with you, man. And
I don't do nothing but the art stuff. Like I'm into everything, man. It really is a lot.
I think we probably have even more in common outside the podcast that we need to get into.
Yourself, and then you guys talk all by yourself.
Okay, that sounds good. And you'll come on again, hang out with us. You want to close out the podcast by saying bye to everybody? Say bye and thanks for listening.
Say bye and thanks for listening.
All right, thanks. All right, man, nice meeting you. Take care. All right, everybody, and for Ron Scott, who had to take off, we're going to conclude this episode of the podcast live from Arts Fest. We have to do this every year, and we talked about some interesting stuff. So if you're interested in anything that's going on, hit me up, and I will connect you to the right people. And if you have anything that you'd like to get going and talk about on the podcast, hit me up, and we'll get you on and get the word out to everybody. And okay, thanks again. Have a good day. Bye.
Slay and greet the day with the ways. We be living our days between them straight white lines. Like we see it in your eyes, gonna run away, gonna run away, gonna run away.